Hello, everybody. Welcome. It is 11:30, so I think we're going to get started now. Thank you all so much for being here today. My name is Jessica Wilson, and I'm the Senior Admissions Counselor here at Palo Alto University. I've been in touch with quite a few of you who are here, so it's really great to see your names and faces. With us today is Dr. Allison Thompson. She is the Co-Associate Director of Clinical Training. She's also the Practicum Co-Coordinator and Clinical Associate Professor for the PsyD program. Also with us today is Alex, who is a current student in the PsyD program. So today we'll be giving you guys an overview of the PsyD program, which will include practicum, internship, licensing, and we will briefly touch on the admissions requirements. But we are hosting a virtual deep dive just for admissions. It's going to be on November 17th at 5 p.m. Pacific time. If you guys have a lot more in-depth questions about admissions, that would be a great thing for you guys to attend. We also do have a recording of it on our website if you want to check that out as well. So while Dr. Thompson is presenting, please feel free to type in all of your questions in the chat box. Myself and Alex will do our best to answer all of your questions, and then towards the end, we will have some time for question and answer. So Dr. Thompson, whenever you're ready.
Thanks, Jessica. Good morning, everyone. It's nice to see some faces this morning. I'm excited to talk to you all about the PsyD program. Alex, as I'm talking, if something comes to mind that it would be important for them to know that I missed, please feel free to jump in. As Jessica mentioned, I am the Co-Associate Director of Clinical Training for the PsyD program, as well as the Practicum Co-Coordinator, and I'm a Clinical Associate Professor at Stanford as well. So the PGSP Stanford PsyD Consortium is a really unique and I think amazing program. I'm kind of biased though. So basically, PAU approached Stanford, you can go to the next slide, Jessica, approached Stanford in 2000 about creating this program that would really be a great blend between PAU strengths and Stanford strengths. So the program was founded in 2002, and it really is a great marriage between those two programs. It is designed for students who want to do primarily clinical work, but that said, all of our students who do a dissertation and a lot of our students by the time they graduate have an amazing breadth of research that honestly rivals research done by students in traditional PhD programs. We've been APA accredited since 2006, and the program is a full-time 5-year program. You can go to the next slide, Jessica. So in terms of what being a PsyD student means for you all, students would be, or students are, I should say rather, full-time registered PAU students who attend a 50% Stanford-affiliated PsyD program. So basically from the top down, there are half PAU faculty, half Stanford faculty in the program. So like I mentioned, I am the co-associate director. I'm on the Stanford side. My colleague, Dr. Jamie Kent, is the other co-associate director of clinical training. She's PAU faculty. About half the faculty are Stanford faculty, half are PAU faculty. Students tend to have classes that are more core foundational classes taught by PAU faculty, and clinical classes are taught by Stanford faculty. All faculty who teach clinical classes are still doing clinical work and also doing research. So a really great opportunity to learn from faculty who aren't like sitting in an ivory tower somewhere, who really are every day, every week interacting with patients and can bring that knowledge and expertise into the classroom with you. When we are back on campus, half of the classes are taught at PAU, either at the main campus or at the Gronowski Clinic. Half are taught in the psychiatry department at Stanford. Students also have the chance to do clinical research both at Stanford and at PAU. And when students get to their 4th year and do a dissertation, they have one faculty member from PAU and one from Stanford. So as you can see, really a nice even split. Students have access to resources as well. So libraries at both PAU and Stanford, for example, are open to students. Excuse me. Next slide, please, Jessica. So this is our 5-year plan for our students. Looks not too overwhelming. It's definitely manageable. As Alex wrote in the chat, she is a 4th-year student, so she is towards the very end of this plan. So in the first year, students take didactic coursework, take their assessment comp, and then if they would like, do a supplemental practicum placement. And I'll go into more detail about practicum in a little bit. In year 2, students take more didactic coursework, take their stats comp, do their first primary practicum, which we refer to as their foundational practicum, and that's a captive placement. We'll talk about that in a little bit as well. And students in any of these years can also do a supplemental practicum. In year 3, students do didactic coursework, and in year 3, students take electives. So in years 1 and 2, it really is a cohort model where all 30 students are taking all the same classes. And so students get to know each other really, really well, which I think is a great strength of our program. And then 3rd year students might find themselves in a smaller class with just a subset of their cohort. They take their clinical comp exam, after which they earn their master's degree, do their second full-time or second primary practicum, I should say, propose their dissertation, and again can do a supplemental practicum placement. And in 4th year, students apply to internship. We'll talk about that in a little bit as well too. Do their last primary practicum, ideally defend dissertation before going off to internship, and then in year 5, do their APA accredited internship, and at the end of that, get their PsyD. Next slide, Jessica, please. So this really tiny print to me, but my eyes are older than yours, gives you all of the classes that students take. So we're on a quarter system. So fall, winter, spring, students do not take classes in the summer, although students can be on practicum in the summer, depending on what practicum placement they get. So if you want to peruse that really quickly. Okay, next slide, Jessica. So let's talk practicum. I imagine a lot of you are here because clinical work is really exciting to you. So students have the opportunity in our program to start doing clinical work in their first year, and that's something we call a supplemental practicum. That's generally at Stanford, completely optional. When we say that it's optional, we don't mean like, oh, it's optional, but it's kind of like a wink and a smile. We mean you really have to do it, but really do mean it's optional. And I would say over the course of 4 years on campus, maybe a little more than half of our students choose to do a supplemental practicum at some point. So those supplemental practicum placements could be something like co-leading a DBT skills group, for example, or administering a structured clinical interview to research participants in a research lab at Stanford. Generally, those are no more than, I would say, 10 hours a week. And of that time, we expect students to spend an average of 2 hours in clinical contact a week. That clinical contact can be face-to-face. Right now, a lot of it is virtual, and APIC recently decided that telephone contact counts as well. So it needs to be one of those 3 to count. In order to get credit for that supplemental practicum placement, students also need to have a contract in place that's signed by their supervisor at the practicum, by the academic advisor, and by the director of clinical training, and by the student before those hours begin to count. Then in year 2, students do what we call our foundational practicum. So in that placement, students go to either the Gronowski Clinic, which is a low-fee community-based clinic run by Palo Alto University, or to the mental health clinic at the Palo Alto VA. And Gronowski also has 2 specialty clinics, La Clinica Latina and the Sexual, Gender, and Identity Clinic that are housed within Gronowski. So students in the fall of their first year meet one-on-one with a member of the practicum selection committee, talk about their interest, and say, this is where I'm really thinking I want to go. They fill out a survey, and then at the beginning of the winter quarter, we tell them, okay, you know, your first choice was to go to MHC, congratulations, you're going to the VA, or your first choice was to go to Gronowski, you're going to Gronowski. La Clinica and SGIC have application processes, and students would apply to those and potentially be selected to go to those. Every student gets a practicum in that first year, and actually every subsequent year. And in that foundational practicum, students are generally at practicum for about 16 hours a week, and we expect about half of that time to be in face-to-face clinical contact again. So again, virtual, face-to-face in the same office, or by telephone. The great thing about those foundational placements is that the supervisors, many of them are faculty members, and they really get to know you both as a supervisor, but we also get to know you in the classroom to some degree. And you're also videotaping your sessions. They really get a chance to watch how you're doing clinical work and give you feedback that I think is really wonderful. Then in third and fourth year, students have a much broader range of placements to choose from. So we still have captive sites that are available to our advanced students. You'll see some of them listed here. The Stanford inpatient unit at the hospital. So Stanford has locked and unlocked inpatient units. And Alex actually has been at that site and I think really loved it, if I remember correctly. The Stanford Department of Psychiatry has a captive placement on the child and adolescent side. The Faculty Staff Help Center is basically an employee assistance center for Stanford faculty and staff. The Palo Alto VA has generally each year about 20 placements that are open to advanced students. And then Menlo College is a small college with about maybe 800 students, but amazingly from about 90 different countries here in the area where students can also apply. And Palo Alto VA takes applications from our program and the PAU PhD program. All of the other sites I just listed are captive just to the PsyD program. In addition to those, we work with something called BAPIC, which is a collaborative between more than 200 practicum placements and about 10 doctoral training programs here in the Bay Area. So even though there are about 200 placements, we're really, really picky about who we'll work with. So we want sites where the emphasis is on training. We don't want a site where the site's just like, oh my gosh, we need a warm body to throw at these patients. We have too many and not enough clinicians. So we want sites where the emphasis is on training and on evidence-based treatment. So of those 200 plus sites, we work with about 45 or 50 of them. You can see some listed. We work with the VA in San Francisco, several of the Kaiser hospitals in the area, college counseling centers like Santa Clara University and San Jose State, UCSF, any kind of site someone wants, whether it's child, adult, inpatient, outpatient. I can guarantee there is probably at least a handful of sites on that list that would appeal to you. Next slide, please, Jessica. So after doing three practicum placements, and I should note that in our program, you do a different placement each year. So different one, second, third, and fourth year. Students in their fourth year apply to internship. Each student gets an internship advisor who helps them through the process. They also attend an internship prep seminar in the fall quarter. And in that larger seminar, we have people come in from different internship sites and talk about what their experience was. So students can really get a sense of what it would be like to be at that site, can learn more than they might learn just from reading a brochure. And with their internship advisor, students get feedback on their CV, their cover letter, their site list. You write 4 essays for your application. They get feedback on each of their essays. And I think, I won't speak for Alex, but I think that students find that pretty helpful. And if you look, we have really great results that I'm really proud of. So going back to 2013, we've had almost 100% match rate every year over that time period. Next slide, please, Jessica. And then after internship, most students go on to do a postdoc and then get licensed. As you can see, our licensure rate is pretty amazing. I would say any student of ours, any graduate of ours either, who isn't licensed is most likely not licensed because they have taken a pause to raise a family. So the vast majority of our students are licensed, and the vast majority of them are clearly knocking it out of the park when it comes to the EPPP, which is the National Licensing Exam.
All right, so let's talk for a few minutes about admissions. So listed here are our deadlines. November 15th is the first deadline coming up, and this is what we kind of say is a priority deadline. And then we also have January 3rd, which is the final deadline. So keep in mind that there is absolutely no priority given to students who do apply on November 15th. We just want you guys to know that this is when we start to review applications. So if you're wanting to get everything in as soon as possible, this is when we'll start to look at your applications. And then January 3rd is the last day to have everything in. So keep this in mind if you maybe have not taken the GRE yet. You may want to try to plan that to be done a few weeks ahead just for processing, because you definitely want to have it in by the deadline. So it's possible that we'll still review applications after January 3rd because we do work on rolling admissions. However, I would say be safe, have everything in by January 3rd at the very latest. And some other things we require, you will give us your resume or CV. You will submit a statement of purpose, which will be around 1,000 words. This will be kind of just speaking to how Palo Alto University specifically, how our PsyD program specifically can help you achieve your goals. And then you will submit 3 letters of recommendation. So the way you'll submit these into PsyCast is you'll just put the recommender's email in there, and then they're going to send a prompt email to them where they will upload their letter and then answer a few short questions. So keep in mind that you will need your recommender's email address. And then all official transcripts. So let's say you have a study abroad program, we will need that transcript. When we look at your official transcript and we see that there were any universities that say transfer credits, every single one of those listed, we will need that official. So definitely keep that in mind because that can take some time, especially if you have to have it translated. So if it's not in English and it's not in the US equivalent GPA, that will need to be translated by WES. So keep that in mind as well. That can take sometimes up to 4 weeks. Now we do require the GRE. So this is something I get a lot of questions about. We do have a GRE waiver available on our website. I highly recommend that you check that out if there's any reason you cannot take the GRE because of extenuating circumstances from COVID-19. So it takes about a week for us to look through these. It's just something you'll type in, what's been going on with you, why you weren't able to take the GRE, and then we'll have that processed in about a week with a decision, either approved or denied. So yeah, feel free to email me. I'll put my email in at the end if you have any more questions, and then we will be going over this in much more detail at the admissions deep dive if you want to join. And then some things, also the coursework, a lot of times people ask what is required. We do have recommended coursework, but there are no actual specific required coursework. So that's the general psych, abnormal, stats, and biopsychology, and developmental. So if you've taken a course that you think, is pretty similar to this, you can email me, but because they're not required, that's up to you. And also keep in mind that if you're also applying to the PhD program, these courses are required with at least a B-. And then also keep in mind that strong preference is given to students who have some form of clinical experience. This is something that is super important for the doctoral programs, just because it just can be so hard to sit with clients, and we want to see that you've worked in some type of a one-on-one helping profession and you've had some of that experience. I know right now it can be a really challenging time with the pandemic to find clinical sites, and definitely that's something we've heard a lot about from students. But there are a lot of telehealth options available, even any type of chat line, whatever you guys can get. Working with clients, that's something that they definitely greatly value. And then also keep in mind the psychology subject test is not currently being offered, so that will not be expected when it comes to the GRE. And let's see, I think that's it. And then, like I said before, November 17th is our next deep dive if you have any more questions. And then we'd love to hear from all of you. Do you have any specific questions for us? We are here to answer anything. If there's something you'd like to hear a little bit more about, we're happy to talk. If you have any questions for Alex about student life, now is definitely a great time to hear from her as well.
Yes, please.
One thing I didn't touch on, Alex, that maybe you want to speak to from a student perspective is the mentorship. I mentioned the internship advisor, but maybe you want to talk a little bit about the different forms of mentorship that you get through the program if you're comfortable with that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I love this program. That's part of why I'm so excited to be here speaking with you all today. It's an exciting morning. There's a lot of emotions going around, so just want to acknowledge that. And this program is really fantastic, I think, especially in the mentorship. So I'm glad that you prompted for that, Dr. Thompson. We have a buddy system that we set up. So as a first-year student coming in, you'll get matched with a student who's further along in the program, usually someone who's a second year, sometimes someone who's a third year. And they're going to be your sort of first line of getting oriented to things. You do have an official orientation that's put on by staff, but someone who knows the ins and outs of being a student and is going to be able to, throughout your years in the program, really help answer questions. Maybe it's going to be someone who can help you when you're thinking about applications, just pass wisdom down through the years. And that's something that's really special and been so helpful. The advisor your academic advisor who you're assigned at the beginning is going to be there with you through the whole ride. You have meetings at least once a quarter. You can always shoot off an email asking for support about, oh, I'm thinking about taking on this extra experience, or, what are my options if I'm thinking about trying to send my career in this direction, and tons of mentorship. You can also find mentors through all your practicum experiences, your supervisors. You form a really close bond with your supervisor. It's something I think is really special about clinical psychology. And it's not just supervisor isn't the term of like your manager who's signing off on your time card. This is the person who really mentors you, who you work closely with. You meet with them for at least an hour every week to go over your clinical cases, to talk about your questions, to receive professional development advice. So that's a really amazing thing that you get that each year, someone different at a different site. There's also lots of opportunities to get involved in research, and you can jump around from one research lab to the next. So this is something I think is a really awesome advantage about the PsyD program over PhD programs. I applied to both, so feel free to reach out to me if you're thinking about that. That typically in a PhD program, you're sort of signing on to have one research mentor. And you're going to be working with them for your entire education of grad school, and it might be kind of challenging if you want to switch. But here at our program, you can find one lab you're interested in, sign on, do some work there for a year, and decide, okay, maybe this isn't the right fit, or I'm really excited about something else, and then you can join another research lab. And I found some really amazing mentors through the research labs I've been involved in. My dissertation chair, who is also the head of a lab I'm in, has become a really important person in my life. And I really think that is a special part of this program, that there's so many different areas where you can get mentorship.
Thank you, Alex. And then I do see a question on here saying, what do you look for in applicants, which I wanted to address. So we do look at your application holistically. So we're looking at kind of every piece of your application, all of the experience that you've had. So we're looking at not just your educational experience, but any research or clinical experience you may have, what has brought you to this point in your life. And we're definitely looking to see that you don't necessarily have to know exactly what you're hoping to achieve in the program, but we do want to see that you have clear goals and interests in the clinical psychology field, of course. What is the difference between PsyD and PhD? Dr. Thompson, would you like to answer this, or would you?
Sure, I can take that one. So I went to a traditional PhD program, and like Alex mentioned, I essentially was in an arranged marriage with my mentor from the day I hit the ground. So it worked out well. My research aligned with hers, but there was no checking out another lab. It was like, I'm gonna be in this women's lab until I graduate from this program. My dissertation is going to come from this lab as well. So very much you're on this very narrow track. Clinical work is not the focus in a PhD program for the most part. You're going to do your primary placements. And so I did 3 placements in my second, third, and fourth year in graduate school, but there was no opportunity to do a supplemental placement, no opportunity to do a clinical research position in another lab. So it was very much research focused, and clinical was kind of secondary. And I would say for PsyD programs, clinical is more the focus. But I think of our program as kind of a PsyD plus, because clinical is very much the focus, but our students tend to really love research. Like I mentioned earlier, A lot of them graduate with pages of publications and presentations. Like Alex mentioned, they go and check out different research labs, maybe find one that they really like and stay in it for a couple of years. And so students have a chance to really do strong clinical work and strong research in our program.
Oh, I had a question.
Sure.
This one's for Alex, actually. I was wondering if you had any advice or things that you wish you had known when you're applying as someone who's already gotten to the school and is doing the program right now.
Yeah, I think one thing to look out for that you may have heard elsewhere, but I want to emphasize is it's really important to look at any program's APA internship match rate. That's like a little secret avenue that can tell you like how well is this program going to support me in having a really successful career and getting set up for that. So our program has an awesomely high match rate, and that is sort of one of these gates that can be a big hurdle in terms of having a strong career or being set up for as many opportunities as possible. You do need to have an APA accredited internship in order to be eligible for a lot of different positions, like a lot of VA positions as a psychologist. And in order to get an APA internship, you should go to an APA accredited program. So those are two things to really make sure you're looking at when you're considering programs. And I don't know if this is like a statistic you can find, but I think what's really amazing about this program is how much support we get in that process. I really felt at this program, like from the beginning, I was receiving the message that staff and faculty here wanted to make sure I could do whatever I wanted and help me get the experiences I wanted, help me get the education I wanted. I really felt like when I was applying to this program that I wasn't just finding a program that was going to offer me the things I wanted, but that I was being welcomed into the program and told, we're going to help you get what you want. And I think that's something really special and important to sort of suss out as you're looking at different programs. Like, how much does it feel like I'm applying for a job as a graduate student here? And how much does it feel like they're really interested in me and feel like I'm a good fit for the program too? And I'll get the support along the way that'll allow me to get everything I want out of my career, which is really cool because psychology is such a varied career. You can do so many different things, but you do have to be set up for it and to have the kind of mentorship and the education along the way that'll make that all possible. So those are a couple things to look out for when you're evaluating different programs.
Cool, thank you.
I see a couple questions about licensure in here. If either of you can answer, let's see. Someone asked, is achieving certification in California relatively flexible if we were to practice therapy in other states? Any thoughts?
I hope I'm not muted. The EPPP is a national exam, and then most states have their own exam. And so everyone takes EPPP, and then in California, if you want to practice here, you take a California exam. New York has their own exam. So you take the exam in the state in which you want to be licensed. And people do move around and get licensed in one state and then move to another and get licensed in another state by taking that exam or getting reciprocity.
I think that's also one advantage to doing either a PsyD or a PhD over a master's is that a doctorate tends to be a very portable degree. Yes, there's often state licensing, but you're unlikely to have to like redo significant portions of your education, which with some master's degrees might be required if states have really different expectations for licensure. So something to think about if you're weighing the difference between a doctorate program or a master's program.
I see a question maybe you could answer, Alex. Have you been able to work a paying job while being a student?
Ooh, good question. My first year, I had a couple of part-time things I was doing. I was like working in a yoga studio a few hours a week. I happened to get involved in some research that paid a little bit, which is fairly rare, I'll admit. There are some jobs around campus, like being a clinic manager at the Gronowski Clinic. I've been involved in like student government and some other things that actually did come with a little bit of a wage. But I'd say after first year, it gets more and more difficult to have side gigs. First year, you might have the chance to do that depending on like how involved you're getting in supplemental opportunities. Since we don't have a primary practicum first year, you're just in classes. There is, I think, some flexibility in your schedule, and that was actually really nice to have sort of a mellower first year when I could work part-time. I have a lot of friends in the program who did things like tutoring or nannying or things that were kind of like flexible hours. I think it is hard to have a part-time job that's very many hours after first year, especially because this is a full-time program and you'll get more and more involved and you'll want to be able to say yes to more things. For me, I struggle to say no to different options that come across my plate because there's so many exciting opportunities. And you'll just want to sort of be able to say yes. So unfortunately, student loans is pretty much how people end up supporting themselves through this program, I'd say, unless you're coming in with a sizable cushion that can support you through 4 years of not getting paid while you're in grad school. But yeah, there are some positions that'll give you a little bit of income, but I don't think you can count on being able to support yourself in the Bay Area while you're in a full-time graduate program.
Yes, and just to add to that, PAU does offer a scholarship for the PsyD program. It's a little over $30,000, I believe, and that's given to quite a few of the PsyD students. But other than that, a lot of students apply for outside fellowships and scholarships. We do have a list of a lot of the outside fellowships that our students have been awarded on our website if you are interested in checking those out. And then definitely federal loans as well. There are, you can work as a TA throughout the program, and there are a few different, options for you to make a little bit of money throughout the program. You can help work in admissions as well if you're interested. And so there are a few options, but unfortunately not to fully fund our program. Also, I see a few questions about the GRE. So just to reiterate, so we do have a GRE waiver available on our website if you're unable to take the GRE due to extenuating circumstances from COVID-19. So you can fill that out. And then someone did ask, what can we put in lieu of the GRE? There's nothing you necessarily have to put in lieu of it. We just look at your application holistically, and that's a piece of the application that we just won't be looking for. So keep that in mind.
On the GRE, if I can ask a follow-on question, how recent does the GRE score have to be? Because I applied to 5 years.
5 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I have an older one.
Yeah. So you'll want it to be 5 years. Under 5 years by January 3rd, I would try to have it.
Okay.
Dr. Thompson, I do see one question where someone's asking the relationship between PAU and Stanford. How does the degree present the field after, how does the degree present to the field after receiving the degree? So can you speak just a little bit about the relationship and how the degree is a PAU degree?
Sure. So like I said earlier, students are full-time Palo Alto University students who attend a 50% Stanford affiliated program. So half the faculty are from Stanford, half are from PAU, half of the classes taught at Stanford when we're back in person, half taught at PAU when we're back in person. The degree is a Palo Alto University degree, and I would say the program is incredibly well regarded. There are graduates all over, not just the country, but all over the world. And when someone says they graduated from the PGSP Stanford PsyD Consortium, people are like, oh, I've heard of that one. And I've heard good things about that program. So I would say it presents really well to the field.
Then I'm going to answer a quick question about our scholarship. So it is awarded based on diversity and financial need, and also I think there was another question about it. Oh, is there a separate application? There's not a separate application. All students who are admitted into the program will be considered for our scholarship.
Could I double click a bit on what it's meant by diversity? Is it gender orientation, or just as an example, or racial diversity or background
overall,
diversity?
honestly, it's just overall. Yeah.
Okay.
I have a question for Alex, actually. Would you mind telling us just a little bit about the community that you feel generally exists between students in a cohort, and maybe how that's different this year, how we're handling things over Zoom and this everything being virtual?
Yeah, great question. You know, it is really such a loss that we're not able to be in person, you know, not just in classes in school, but like in our lives, right? It's really challenging to be in such a Zoom-based world. Starting first year, your cohort has all your classes all together. So the 30 of you are cozily snuggled up in a classroom together normally, and in this world on Zoom together, which I think does make it harder to sort of interact. I'd want to like check in with the first years who are having their experience totally Zoom based this year in order to really speak to what it's like for them. But I would say for my cohort, at least, by this point in our program, there's really such a strong sense of community. There's a lot of opportunities to interact throughout the years, not just in classes, but strong friendships really form, and you get paired up in all sorts of different kinds of activities and group projects and things where you have an opportunity to get to know folks in a little bit of a smaller context. So I think that's probably still like very much an important avenue, even in this Zoom world, in terms of getting to know each other and being able to like have that personal connection. Typically at the start of each year, each cohort creates like a group me, like a full group text chat where we're able to communicate with one another and support each other. And I'd say overall, the atmosphere is really one of collaboration and mutual support. It's not a competitive vibe at all. And in fact, I think if you come into this program with a strong sense of being competitive, that's not going to serve you nearly as well as being collaborative. I think here, once you reach this program, it's like already the best of the best. So there's not a real sense of us needing to be like pitted against one another. It is much more a coming together, supporting each other, rooting for each other, helping one another with projects and goals. So I think that's a really special part of this program too, is that we do get to know each other and support each other along the way and see all the different paths that really blossom out from wherever we begin first year, which is like amazing to me how much you learn and how much you grow and how much you find your direction over just a few short years.
That's awesome. Thank you.
I see someone asked about the typical cohort size. Our cohorts are 30 students each.
Alex, someone asked, how is getting and maintaining through the program? So how have you been kind of maintaining recently?
I am at the point in my education where I have just submitted my applications for internship, which is a big deal and a big hurdle. So I am basking in the like relief of having worked super hard for a long time. There are a lot of really major hurdles in your education in this program and also in any program that is setting you up to be a clinical psychologist. There are competency exams you take along the way that take a lot of time and studying. There's a dissertation, which is a huge amount of work. Internship applications really take a lot of effort. So there are these big milestones and big hurdles along the way. But what's really amazing is that you get so much support from staff, from older students, from your cohort. I mean, we have classes that are set up as seminars to literally just support you in the process of figuring out how do you begin a dissertation? How do you choose a topic? How do you find a mentor if you haven't, or a chair if you haven't already found a research avenue that you're excited about? So there's really a lot of I don't want to call it hand-holding because that sounds a little pedantic, but there's a lot of really warm support and structure set up to help you succeed. So I think that's something that's been amazing about this program that isn't necessarily true at other programs where you're expected to sort of figure it out for yourself or build that success all on your own. There's just a ton of built-in steps along the way that help you make these huge hurdles possible. So I think that's been really fantastic for me this whole time.
I have a question for Dr. Thompson.
I'm ready.
Hey, Dr.
Fine.
Thompson, I've been following your research steps, and I know you're into research in minority health. I would like to know how a psychologist as me, that come from a small city in Latin America, can get a multicultural perception of psychology. I know there is a subject that's called cultural psychology, but I want to know what else can the Palo Alto program do for us?
That's a great question. Thanks for following my research. That's very kind. As you know, I'm really interested in underserved populations and historically underfunded populations. And I think it's really important that our students get experience working with patients from a wide range of backgrounds. So we have a number of practicum placements where students can work with patients from different racial and ethnic backgrounds, different sexual orientations, different gender identities, acculturation statuses. One of the essays that Alex just had to write was about her experience with diverse populations for internship. And I actually love reading those essays because it really speaks to the range of experience that our students get. Not to pick on my graduate program, but I went to graduate school in Chicago, where the majority of my patients all kind of looked alike and had similar backgrounds. That's not going to happen with students here. Our students here can also do therapy in different languages. So at La Clinica Latina, students do therapy in Spanish. Students can do therapy in Spanish in at least one other site in third or fourth year, and can do therapy also in Mandarin and other languages. So I think we really highlight diversity in our clinical work and in our classrooms as well. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Dr. Thompson, can I ask a
Yes.
follow-on question to Jose's
course.
question?
Of course.
I'm super interested in the underserved community as well, and especially in people that have been abused growing up or in different situations. Is it possible to say, you know, I would like to work with a certain type of people or a community of people, or is it more random depending on who comes in through the clinic?
So I would say a little bit of both. So in second year at the VA and at the Gronowski Center, it is more who walks in the door. We can tell a supervisor, oh gosh, I'm really interested in this population. And then in third and fourth year, let's say you're interested in trauma, you could apply to a PTSD track at one of the VAs, or we work with two centers in the Bay Area that work with people with trauma histories. You could apply there. So you really can, in third and fourth year, start to really focus on the populations that are of most interest to you.
Thank you. That's super helpful.
You're welcome.
This year I'm at a practicum site that's a low-cost sliding scale community clinic in the East Bay that's focused specifically on evidence-based treatments for trauma. So we see a really wide array of folks there who maybe don't have insurance or need something that's going to be less expensive than whatever the copay with insurance would be. So we do see a lot of underserved folks there. I've had a particular interest I've been developing in sexual and gender minority individuals. So I see a lot of gender non-binary folks at that clinic. And there is a sexual and gender identity SGIC clinic at Gronowski, as well as Clinica Latina. So those are two areas where you can sort of really hone in on a population. And then I'll say at some clinics, like when I was at the VA or at other places, you might be able to work with your supervisor and say like, hey, I'm really interested in getting some experience in this population or folks who have these identities. So I think one of the benefits of being in the Bay Area is having such an incredibly diverse patient population. And depending on what site you're at, you can totally sort of hone in to a certain extent. And I definitely would encourage you getting a really wide array of experiences, because that can develop a lot of skills that are really beneficial long term.
Thank you. That makes a lot of sense.
We have a few more minutes, so if anyone has any more questions, now is a great time. And also, I put my email in the chat box. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. And then Alex, if you wouldn't mind putting your email as well, you can definitely always reach out to Alex with any other questions that come along the way.
Yeah, I love being a resource for prospective students. I felt like I had such an incredible experience when I was applying to this program. It's really what sold me on it here over other programs. Like, I was wanted and that I was connected with students who could answer my questions. So please do reach out to me. If I'm not the person to answer your question, I'll get you connected to another student who can totally speak to that.
Thank you, Alex. And thank you so much, Dr. Thompson, for your time. We really appreciate you being here. I'll stay on for a few more minutes.
Oh, my pleasure.
Yeah, if anyone wants to hang out, I can answer a few more questions, or, feel free to enjoy your beautiful day.
I had a question for Alex. My name's Cassidy. I don't know if you could tell who's speaking. But I just have a question. So I assume that you had multiple programs to choose from and you were offered a lot of things. So I'm just wondering why you decided to pick Palo Alto U as opposed to other programs in the country.
I would say I had a lot of things to choose from, but I was making a decision when it reached that point, which is really fortunate. And if you find yourself after the end of all this work and all this application that you don't have options, or maybe you don't get in anywhere, try not to get discouraged. I know it is discouraging, but this is such a competitive field to get into because it is so rewarding and there's so many options and it's really worth it. So if you don't get anywhere in somewhere this year, really go after some experiences that are going to make you a stronger candidate and try again next year. This is an amazing and rewarding path. So I really encourage you all to keep going. But to answer your question about why I chose this program is I think at the end of the day, I really got the sense that I was being valued as an individual by the staff, the faculty, the program, the students. I mean, I felt like the director of our program, Dr. Hill, went sort of above and beyond to try to make sure I was talking to students who shared interests with me, who could answer my questions. I felt very much like I was going to get all the support I needed in order to pursue my specific interests and goals or to explore new things. That the options here in the Bay Area and also at this program, both to be involved in research and to get lots of different clinical opportunities was really special. Some programs might have one clinic that you're going to be working in each year and you don't get that many different experiences. There's so many different experiences here they can get clinically and so many different research experiences too. So you're not locked into one thing. So I really wanted to have all those different possibilities and to feel like I had the support of the program in pursuing what I wanted. And that's definitely turned out to be true. I think even more so than what I picked up on when I was just a prospective student. That's been really, really true.
Okay, thank you so much.
If no one has any other questions for me, I'm going to go ahead and jump off. It was nice to see all of you. Have a good weekend.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Bye.
I have another one actually more on the research elements of the program. I'm kind of catching the vibe that students vary a lot in their dedication to research, the amount that they do, and then the nature of their final dissertation. I'm doing an undergraduate type of thesis, original data collection, but it's still kind of a small project. But you mentioned other people do kind of PhD level projects. So could you just kind of speak to the lower ends and the upper ends of the types of research involvement that people have and the types of projects that they do?
I think regardless of what kind of project you're doing, the dissertation is going to be a huge undertaking. So unfortunately, there's no easy way out of that. But I think you are speaking to the fact that the amount of statistical analysis you want to do or how much of a RCT you want it to look like does vary a lot. So I'm doing an analysis of already collected data. It's a project that has something like 180 data points, and I'm using a smaller sample that's going to be around 20 individuals, but it's got enough power that I can really do a statistical analysis there. It's a treatment effectiveness study. And I say that's more on sort of the PhD end looking side of things when you look at a dissertation. Other people are doing something maybe doing a qualitative review of a focus group of individual experiences with a particular type of treatment, or I have a friend who helped pilot a new program that is a trauma-informed group for significantly preterm mothers and who have babies in the NICU. And then another group that was set up for NICU fathers. So that's a really cool project where like this is a whole new kind of treatment being offered, and it's a really small sample size and it's qualitative data, but something really exciting that you can get involved in because we have Stanford Hospital, we have Stanford School of Medicine, we have a lot of different places you can get involved in different kinds of projects. I'd say the like side of the dissertation that is sort of the less stats heavy is you can do what's just a literature review. It's not just, it ends up being a really big project, but if you wanted to say like, hey, there's nothing out there speaking to what types of supervision experience help prevent vicarious traumatization of clinicians. And I want to like gather all of the research out there and try to bring it together and maybe make some recommendations. That can totally be a project you do as well. So it can look a lot of different ways.
Okay, just one follow-up on that. Would you say that a lot of people are able to actually like work with clinical populations and collect data there, or is that more of a rare thing?
For sure. Okay. I'd say anyone who wants to be doing that can do that. It is a big undertaking if you're wanting to do a pilot study because you've got to go through the IRB, you've got to do the data collection, you've got to, like, there's a lot of steps involved. So I'd say best to start early if that's the dissertation you want to do. I knew that I wanted to work with data that was already collected so that it would feel a little bit more manageable. And there's just like so many different labs that have tons of data waiting to be analyzed. So that's very available as well.
Okay, for sure. Thank you so much.
Hey, Alex, can I ask another question about the two PhD programs, the PsyD and PhD? Have you seen people decide to change your mind and go from one to the other after school has started? Is that possible?
I have not seen that. I believe you would have to basically submit an entirely new application, go through the whole process again, be accepted to the other program. You can't really switch over from one to the other. I'd say the PhD program does have a much larger cohort, and there tend to be, I think, probably, I don't know if I'm allowed to say this. I'd say if people are accepted to both the PhD and the PsyD program, people tend to choose the PsyD program and be pretty happy about that decision. I don't know if that's something.
Yeah, if you decided you were admitted to the PsyD and you wanted to move to PhD, you would just take a leave of absence and you would reapply and interview and go through the whole process again. So unfortunately, there's no ability to go back or forth.
Mm-hmm. Okay, got it. Thank you.
And I'd say because our PsyD program does involve like pretty significant research training and research opportunities, that it is a PsyD plus. It's in many circles that understand what our program is about, it's considered just as good as a PhD.
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, a lot of people think, oh, PsyD, I won't have to do research, that'll be great. But students actually end up getting super passionate about research in the PsyD program and actually really decide that they love it. And the cool thing is we don't require you to have research experience, so you will get that training in our program. So it's definitely not something to be scared of.
Thank you. It's very helpful.
Well, we don't have any more questions. I think we will go ahead and end our call today, but please feel free to reach out to me if you have any other questions, or Alex as well.
Yes.
And I hope everyone has
questions. Email me. We can set up a Zoom time. I'll get you connected to whoever you want to talk to if I can't answer your questions. So definitely follow up.
Yeah, I will put my email one more time just in case it's lost, and I hope everyone has a wonderful day. Thank you all for being here.
All of you as well.